In this video, I'm going to look at a VUE app which has a set of radio buttons. And I've dealt with this topic in the past, but I'm trying to push it a little further with this. And in this case, in the previous case, the values of the radio buttons were sort of like a single string. And now so I would get sort of one piece of information out of it. And now I would like to get more pieces of information. So I'm going to have sort of two versions here. One where the values are the objects themselves, so then I can get all the properties of the objects. And then the second one, I'm going to have the value of the radio button be an index of the array of objects, and then get the information based on that index. So here we go. If you want this code, it is located at the URL you see here. So there's not much exciting going on here. The user uses the radio buttons to choose a size, and down here we have access to both a word indicating the size and an abbreviation indicating the size. And the same thing down here. And we're just sort of handling that different. And here I also have the index. So extra small was index 0, 1, 2, and so on. Okay. So let's have a look. Okay, so the CSS, there's some body, some input, some label. The label that is next to the checked radio button. So that's the styling. Nothing terribly interesting or new. Here is the JS. There is the data portion has an array of sizes. So there's a property called sizes, which is an array of objects, and those objects have a size underscore name and a size underscore abbreviation. So there are two pieces of data for each size. We have an array of such sizes called sizes in the data portion. Then I want the user's choices, and again, I'm doing it twice. So one time the user's choice is an object, and I could just make it an empty object, but I gave it the two properties with quote quote as their values. And then the second type way of doing it, I'm giving the user's choice as basically an index, and then I use my array at that index to get the data. So that's the data that's available. When the page starts, I'm pre-selecting. So when the page starts, I'm selecting small in the first set and large in the second. And so that is here, that I am using the user's choice, which is the array. I can use the element of my array with an index of 1, or I could have done alternatively what you see in the line above that's commented out, sort of make it an explicit object, or make it an element of my array of objects. And then I'm also establishing for the second set an initial value where the index user underscore index 2 is at 3, which is then, of course, the fourth size, the indexing starting at 0. So that's what we have here, and then it's ultimately then mounted. Take that code and use create app to make a VUE app and mount it to the element on the page with a pound or hashtag VUE underscore radio, meaning something had that ID. Okay, so here we go over in HTML. There is a link to the VUE CDN, a link to the style sheet, and down at the bottom, a link to the radio.js that we just looked at. And then here's some headers, and then here's the div that is mounted, if you will, by the VUE. And here's the first set of radio buttons. I created a span, and I'm using V4. I'm looping over the array of sizes, and a size will be an element of that array, and index will be its index, starting with 0 and going forward. And I'm making an input of the radio type and giving it an ID. When the attributes that you're signing are changing, then you do this V binding, and that's indicated by this colon. So each one's going to have a different ID, as should be the case. And so I'm using the size name property of the A size object. I'm giving all the radio buttons the same name. That means that you pick one of them from the group. The value here, colon value, so different value, so I'm V binding it, is I'm using the entire object A size. So sizes was an array of objects, so A size is an object, so now the value is an object. And then I am using V model to say that the user's choice is going to be the value of the checked radio button. And then here's a label that works in conjunction with the radio button. Its 4 matches the ID of the radio button, so they work as a team, and you can click on the label or on the radio button. And I'm showing you between the open label and the closed label the size name, so the name written out. And down here in the span, I am displaying the user's choice, both the size name and the size abbreviation. So this is what it buys you to have the value be an object, is that then you have, when the user makes a choice, we have access to all the properties of that choice. Okay. Just a different way of doing it. So round 2, I have another span. I'm spanning over the same array. I gave it the same A size and index here. And here, again, I'm making radio buttons. So inputs of type radio, the ID. I wanted these IDs to be different than the IDs above, because I didn't want the labels from below working with the radio buttons from above or anything like that. So I had to make sure they had different IDs. IDs should be unique. And so I'm concatenating here. So I have I'm V binding, so colon ID equals, and then my double quote. And then within my double quote, I have a single quote. So that's a literal. And then I'm concatenating that with the plus sign to the size name of the A size, which is the object when I'm iterating over my array of objects. I give them all the same name, but a different name from the set above. So again, then I get to choose one from the top and one from the bottom. If they all had the same name, I'd only be able to choose one on the whole page. I've made the value, again, the value is changing, so it's V bound, and the value, I've made the index. So I have, when I use V4 and I'm looping over arrays, I have the element, and I can also have access to the index. And this time I'm using the index as the value. And I'm saying that the V model is going to be over in here. There's my user index 2. My V model is user underscore index 2. And so that's the name of my variable, and it grabs the value of the checked radio button. And so because I'm using the values as indices, then I've named my property as index, just to remind myself. And then here's the corresponding label. The 4 matches the ID, and I'm showing you the size name property in between the label. And then down here in the span, I can show you the index. I'm showing you the index. The index here is 3. I'm showing you, I can use the array of objects. So sizes was an array of objects. So the variable was just user index, which was a 3, but then I can use that in conjunction with my array of objects property. So sizes was an array, and then I use my other variable as its index. So sizes square bracket user underscore index 2, and then it was an array of objects. So I take that object and I want the size underscore name property, and then later the size underscore abbreviation property. So what this buys me compared to what I had before was that before my property was sort of a simple string. Now, in one case, my value is an object, in the top one, and in the second one, my value is an index, but I have access to the array of objects and can then use that index within that array of objects to get, again, all the properties of the chosen size, both the name and the abbreviation. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you in this one. Thanks for your attention.